Barry Loudermilk, the House GOP head of the committee looking into January 6th, says Liz Cheney should be investigated for witness tampering. That's what he came out with yesterday. They've been doing an investigation, but there's a lot more to it. Barry, welcome to the program.
Glenn, thanks for having me on. Hey, and thank you for covering this. So many media outlets won't even touch anything with January 6th, but you've been very consistent with it. And
I have to tell you, I don't want to get really specific because it might hurt them. I was at a place of business. Somebody I know who's completely rational, big business person. They happened to be in Washington that day. They were outside of the Capitol. They did nothing, and they were just charged with 6 felonies. And I said, wow. What's on the videotape? And they said, we did nothing. We did nothing. We happened to be there, but we didn't do anything. And it's gone crazy, Barry. It has absolutely gone crazy. So, when you look into these things, what do you think the biggest discovery or the most shocking discovery is that you guys found and verified?
Well, besides what we're going to talk about with Liz Cheney, I think it's the tremendous failures in several areas of our government, and then the subsequent cover-up to try to cover up their failure, and people just closing their eyes and their minds and allowing Donald Trump to take the blame from the January 6th committee for everything, when it was a massive failure on several fronts. And then you have the aggressiveness of the FBI, which we've made this point in the report, is the FBI will go to great lengths using video footage to find a grandma who goes into the Capitol, prays, and then leaves, or someone like the person you were talking about who just happened to be out there, and charge them with crimes, but yet they have no idea who placed the pipe bombs.
That's not true.
And part of that is because they pulled resources away from that investigation. And then, as we released in this report, they lied about the evidence that they had or supposedly had regarding the pipe bomber. They told us that, well, the identity of the pipe bomber is within data that we received from a major cell phone carrier that was corrupt, and then we couldn't get it because they
was that not true?
That turned out to be a lie. No, it is not.
Oh
true.
My gosh!
We've been investigating that. Obviously, it's kind of easy to find who the perpetrators are now because they all retired recently. Once we started this investigation, you've seen a lot of retirement. This was the field office director here in Washington, D.C., told the Select Committee on January 6th, well, we were investigating and we subpoenaed all the major carriers, but one carrier, the data they provided us was corrupted, and that's the data that the pipe bomber would be in. So we took that. We went to the 3 major carriers, asked them all, and we kind of knew which one it was, but didn't want to reveal it because we wanted to see what we could find out. All 3 of them said, yes, we were subpoenaed by the FBI. We did provide data. All 3 of them said the FBI never came back to us and asked for the data again, telling us it was corrupted. And then the last question I asked was, do you still have the data? And all of them said, yes, we keep data for every major event. And in fact, the one carrier said, we still have all the data from the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh, my gosh.
So that agent absolutely lied because he said
this is the
data was corrupted and we couldn't get it because it was no longer available.
This is the same guy, if I'm not mistaken, that was investigating the kidnapping of the governor of Michigan and then was transferred to the head of special investigations?
I think you're right. I can't verify that, but I think you may be right. But what gets me is, okay, they put very little resources into finding who placed the pipe bombs, but yet they will go to all lengths to find anyone who was around the Capitol. That is not an equal application of the law.
It's also interesting. They didn't even investigating, according to your report, they did no investigation into who constructed the gallows. Tell me about that.
So that was something that a lot of people didn't pay attention to, except for the Democrats, because the Democrats, if you go back and you think about this campaign for the Democrats was going to be run on January 6th. That was what they had. They totally messed the economy up. They totally blew our standing nationally. We became, we were a big national security risk. Basically, this administration was a complete failure. The only thing they could run on was January 6th and that Donald Trump is a traitor to our country. We systematically dismantled that. But the one thing that they had was the gallows, and they would put the gallows up in their early campaign ads. Well, my question about the gallows was always who put it up. They claim it was people who put it there to hang Mike Pence because he wasn't going to object to the certification of votes.
Right.
But the thing is, Trump didn't even know what Pence was going to do until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the gallows was put up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So how could they have directed
on
the gallows
video
to hang Mike Pence when nobody knew what he was going to do? Right. So we started looking into, because my initial question was, how was that gallows allowed to stay up on Capitol property all day long and even into the evening? You can't put up a little stand on the Capitol property without a permit. It'll be immediately taken down. How would the Capitol Police allow that to stay up, or the Park Police, whoever? A gallows, how was it allowed to stay up all day? So as we started investigating it, then we said, let's look and see how much investigation the FBI did into it. So we looked at our videos, the Capitol surveillance videos, and we could see where the people carrying the gallows came from. They had a hand truck full of lumber pulling it up. I think it was up Pennsylvania or Constitution Avenue. So I put a team on this, and they started looking. I said, all right, let's go to every government building along the street and ask them two questions. One, do they have surveillance cameras out front, which they do? Do they still have the video from it, which none of them did because it had been overwritten? And the third question was, did the FBI ever ask you for any of this video? And the answer, every one of them, was no.
Jeez.
The FBI
Shocking.
spent no time looking into who erected the gallows.
Wow.
That's
and
absolutely
we even
shocking.
have a clear picture of one of them. So, yeah, there was a total... there was a lot of effort put into convictions, but it was only on one side.
It was on one side. Congressman Loudermilk, it's Liz Wheeler. I'm sitting in today for Stu here at Blaze HQ in Dallas. Question for you. According to your report, you said that your committee is going to release an additional investigative report into the identity of the pipe bombers. Do you know not just that Liz Cheney and her January 6th committee lied about the phone records and the phone carrier corrupting the data, but do you know the identity of the pipe bombers?
We don't know the identity, but this is being done in coordination with the Judiciary Committee chaired by Jim Jordan. And so we've done our part of the report. They're working on their part. I expect it to be released sometime next week. I know it's a bad week for releasing a report with Christmas coming, but we want to make sure that we get it right. And so we're compiling all the information they have and we have. And we're not going to identify who it is because we don't know exactly, but we know a lot more than the FBI did of potentially, where they came from. I mean, we were able to track their vehicle that they were in, that the FBI never went and tried to look for. So,
Congressman, let me ask you this. Let's go back to Liz Cheney here, because you say she should be investigated and possibly tried. I hope, if these things are true, I hope every damn one of these people, no matter which side they're on, are put in jail. Have you found enough to have a reasonable grand jury say, crimes were committed here and this needs to be a trial? And can you get it out of Washington, D.C., which will never be a fair trial?
Well, as you know, Glenn, that is outside the realm of the legislative branch. And I've said all along, on accountability, people should be held accountable, but it will never happen under the current Department of Justice.
No.
We have a new Department of Justice coming in.
Yes.
So we are, this is one of the reasons we're making this referral. Let me just real quickly lay the basis of why I'm saying Liz Cheney should be investigated. because Cassidy Hutchinson, the star witness, came in and testified before the select committee twice under oath. The third time, she started changing her first two testimonies. And then the fourth time, she totally came out with all kind of crazy stories, right? This is about Trump attacking Secret Service officers,
right,
throwing food and chanting that Mike Pence should be hung, okay? She significantly changed her testimony to the point where she would have committed perjury either before or after. What changed? What changed? It was between her first two and the next two that she started communicating directly with Liz Cheney. And Liz even said this is unethical. So let's just use Liz Cheney's own standards, all right? In July of 2022, Liz Cheney, and we have the video of her doing this in a committee, referred Donald Trump to the Department of Justice to be investigated for witness tampering because he said Trump tried to contact a witness. He wasn't successful. He only tried to contact a witness. So they assumed it was witness tampering, and they referred him to the Department of Justice. Now let's compare what her standards to what she did. Cheney did communicate with a witness, didn't just try, did, and even acknowledged that it was at least unethical to do so.
Oh, my gosh.
Who, after their communication, did change their testimony. And according to Cassidy Hutchinson, Cheney did recommend her to fire her attorney and that Liz Cheney did help her find a new one. And then Liz Cheney did try to have Stefan Pasantino, who was her first attorney, tried to get him disbarred and basically tried to ruin his life. So now just use Cheney's standards of Trump tried to contact a witness. He should be investigated versus what she actually did, and we have it documented that she did these things. This is why we're recommending the Department of Justice investigate her for witness tampering. It's not tit for tat. I'm just saying if she laid the standard that just trying to make a phone call is witness tampering, then this really should be investigated.
If honestly, I said this during the Trump, impeachment hearings when they filed those. I said to my staff, find out as much as we can about the truth. The same thing with COVID. I didn't know if anybody was good or bad on that, 6 or 8 months into it. We did an honest investigation, and I said to my staff, let the chips fall where they may. Just seek the truth. And honestly, if these people put this country through this, they should go to jail. Either side. If you were at January 6th and you actually were breaking the windows and climbing through the windows, and hitting police officers, etc. Yeah, probably you should go to jail. You should have a fair trial, but you should go to jail. But not the innocent. And anyone who is trying to make the innocent look guilty or make the guilty look innocent should also go to jail. Congressman, I'd like to know how engaged is Kash Patel in this. Are you briefing him? Is that coming? Has he been involved in any of this along the way of knowing where the bodies are buried? Or does he have to start January 20th?
No, he's been following the work we've been doing. We haven't had direct communications until recently. And one of the reasons is when I took this on, when then Speaker McCarthy asked me to take on this project, I told him I would do it under two conditions. One, you give me the resources to conduct a real investigation, not a politically driven one, and that I would do it from an unbiased standpoint. Just as you were saying earlier, if people did bad,
right,
regardless of which political side they're on, we'll report it. Yep. I'm just going to get to the truth. And so we didn't want to have any collusion in any other area. But as the truth started coming out, and especially after the election and just leading up to it, Kash had been engaged with us as far as the reports we're sending out and asking some questions. So he has been following our work very closely, as I know the Mar-a-Lago has recently, and getting geared up because I think they're very interested to make sure that justice is done equally.
Let me ask you, Congressman, in your report, you say that there was information that was withheld from Liz Cheney and her committee's final report, in addition to the fact that there was a terabyte of data that was somehow deleted. It was just expunged from existence. Do you know what what information was withheld from that final report that would have painted a very different picture? And do you have any way of accessing the deleted data?
Well, to answer the second question, the question about what was missing, yes, we know what was missing, and we're releasing it publicly. Just to give you an example, it was any witness testimonies that exonerated Trump or did not line up with Cassidy Hutchinson's. So, for instance, Cassidy, in her fourth testimony, comes up with these elaborate stories like the Trump trying to take the steering wheel of the SUV. As soon as she said that, within days, they had that emergency televised hearing where they paraded her in front of the entire world, and she told these stories. They took no effort to corroborate those stories. All you had to do was subpoena the Secret Service driver and ask him these questions, which they did after the midterm elections months later. So when they finally called the Secret Service agent in to testify, they never even asked him about this incident. He had to insert it himself, and they tried to stop him from saying it.
It's a kangaroo
his entire
court.
Testimony, and everybody else's testimony that was different than hers, those testimonies were sent away. As far as deleted documents, we know that they got rid of all the videotapes of all the testimonies.
Yeah.
And some of those could have exonerated, like Stefan Pasentino.
Unbelievable. Congressman, thank you for the hard work that you guys are doing on this. Thanks for seeking the truth and nothing but the truth. And hopefully, justice will come.